present, future, all in the room, they're calling my name.
Hello, everyone. Today we have a very unique privilege to have with us Joy. Joy is a multi-talented individual, but one of the things that I appreciate the most about and kind of just learning about Joy before the show is she wrote a book on freelancing that is, it's not just optimistic or like this is the promise of freelancing, this is what you can do. It's also practical. Hey, how do you manage your finances when you have cycles of feast and famine? How do you deal with health coverage concerns? How do you deal with like the minutia and like the practicality and the merging of both the promise and potential of charting your own course, but also practically? I don't have to like just quit my job and go do everything out on my own and just figure it out magically. It's practical and it really kind of just bridges two worlds together in a very powerful way. So I'm very excited to have you on the show. Welcome to the show, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the genesis of your journey. We'd love to know what that was like.
Yeah. So my origin story was basically, I think of it in three chapters. So the first chapter was really the beginning of the career ladder. I was trying to set the foundation when I was just starting out and just get on a career ladder and learn as much as I could. So that led to a lot of kind of familiar tracks at the time. Banking was hot. I worked at an investment bank, and then I went to law school and business school, and really just tried to have as much structure early on as possible. And then when that chapter ended, it ended a little unexpectedly. A couple of weeks after I graduated law school, I ended up getting the opportunity to audition and then actually act in Bollywood. So I had plans to go work at a law firm like many of my law school classmates. I decided, it was not the right time to go down that structured path anymore. I wanted to take a risk. Chapter 2 was really all about taking risks. And so from that law school graduation and that Bollywood experience, which was short-lived, I didn't end up becoming a star, as you, the audience, likely know. But I really got to sample as much as possible. And then I went wide. So I consulted for as many different kinds of clients as I could. I started my own freelance business instead of taking a full-time job, and I really I did compliance, I did finance, I did go-to-market, I did acting, voiceover, event planning, marketing, you name it. I was kind of trying everything to see what really worked for me. And then chapter 3 was really just kind of where I am now, which is once I had gathered all the data, tested all my hypotheses of what I think I might like and what I think I might be good at, then figuring out what am I going to double down on. And so for me, that's ended up being actually law. So I went to the right school. Phew, thank God. I studied the right trade for my personality. But within law, running my own practice as a freelancer, and then also having something of a creative element to it, where I write, I speak, I have a podcast of my own, and I really try to share the things that I'm learning and connect with people beyond just the documents and the legal problems that I'm solving on a day-to-day basis.
I want to like drill down a little bit into that. It's fascinating because like you have both like a very structured part of your career and kind of a part of your journey of it's what gives you the best ROI education or kind of career wise, and then it's kind of blue sky thinking. We're going to kind of try everything, and then it's the third chapter of integration, which I think is in a way, I mean, each chapter has its benefits. There's rewards and kind of in seeing a kind of return on your input, and there's reward in kind of just doing blue sky and kind of seeing where things take you. But I think there's a lot of challenge and a lot of kind of just really great energy that comes when you're integrating these different parts and you're kind of finding like how do these kind of fit together. Um, in general, recently I've had more the mindset of less of like what I wish I would have done differently because I feel like a lot of the journeys we take bring us to where we are, and some of those things, I mean, some things are avoidable, but some things I think kind of bring more kind of richness to our worldviews when we kind of look at them in hindsight. But like, I'll start and come with this more structured part. Do you feel like you maybe could have been more present in that part, or was it more kind of just like heads down, kind of just getting to that finish line in that first chapter when you were kind of in investment banking, kind of going to law school, kind of really kind of checking a lot of boxes in that way? Or am I mischaracterizing that period?
That's a really good question. I think that, I was so young and we didn't have the conversation that we have now about being present, right? I was, in the early 2000s, I was 18, 19, and then onward. I didn't think about it, and I think people who are 18 and 19 today very much do think about being present. But for me, I had a goal, and I wanted to work at a bank. I was very lucky to get into the bank that I wanted to work at, to get to the school that I wanted to go to, and I was just kind of, like, trying to take it all in as much as possible, and it was overwhelming, it was exciting, it was pushing me to my limits, and um I think that had I known how to be present at the time, I don't know. I wonder if I would have started the experimentation earlier. I wonder if I would have showed up differently. But for me, I just really just dove in head first, and maybe it was a different kind of presence, which was um, just pushing myself to what I felt was my potential and trying to break through new limits and finding new ways of operating and existing in the world, because my world was both big and small going into this. And we can get into like all the childhood stuff, but I was a third culture kid. I grew up in Southeast Asia and New Hampshire. And then, did high school and college in the Boston area. And so at this time, we didn't have the internet and the social media connectivity that we do today. Facebook had only just started. And so my world was kind of the people I saw around me, and getting to go from there to Manhattan and be in the big city, getting to be around all these other opportunities, that was just really exciting. And it felt fun. It felt like being the way we think of a vacation now. Like, you're just seeing all these new sights and sounds, and you get to be a different person, and you get to try on new identities. And it was a different kind of presence than the sitting on the yoga mat, which I do a lot now. But no, I liked that experience for that moment in my life.
I think that's an awesome. I think it's kind of just indicative of the mindset that you have in your book and kind of in your work in general. It's like there is there is no kind of right path or right way to have presence. There is something to be said for kind of when you have that energy and that drive to kind of to get to destination. And I relate to it's a little bit kind of my kind of journey in tech as well. There were moments that like if I had the mindset I had now, I probably wouldn't have gotten over those hurdles that I did then, because it takes a certain presence to kind of to persevere, as it were. Um, moving and kind of into chapter two, as it were. Just curious, what was it like? I kind of you write about kind of like going through auditions and kind of what it was like kind of on a daily basis, and just would love to learn a little bit more about that period when you were kind of trying a bunch of different things and kind of really kind of putting yourself out there.
Yeah, that was a really unexpected time. I had not thought that coming out of, law school and business school and all the on-campus recruiting and the summer internships, that I would take a hard left and move into a different country and different industry that I didn't have any peer group or any community or any kind of understanding of when I showed up. And to some extent, it helped that I was a little naive, because it helped me take a risk that maybe, had I known more and had a more honest assessment of my skills, I may not have done. But that was really, it was such a blessing, honestly, to get off the career ladder immediately. Like, I called the law firm I was supposed to go to, and I told them Bollywood called, and the hiring partner was very kind, and he laughed, and he was like, "Okay, like, go follow your dreams." And that was great. A very bizarre conversation, but uh, once I got to India and I didn't have a full-time job, and I couldn't have a full-time job because we didn't have remote work in 2014 the way we have it in 2026. Most of the jobs required you to be in person full-time, and auditions also required you to be in person at certain times depending on the production house availability. And so I had to figure something out quickly to get cash, because I had these six-figure student loans. I needed a place to live. I needed to be able to just kind of get by. And that prompted me to think, what can I sell that is not, acting? And it turned into being consulting. And I looked at some platforms that were starting to emerge and see different ways of cobbling together a living. And that was incredible, because we were having this moment in entrepreneurship back in 2014. I think Silicon Valley was hot. There were really large fundraisers, and a lot of people coming out of business school were saying they were going to be an entrepreneur if they weren't taking one of the consulting or banking jobs. And I didn't have the conviction to be an entrepreneur, because I didn't have a product. I didn't really see myself making at the time like a scalable venture backed business. But when it came to cobbling together a career that let me have income, and it was great, I was very lucky to be able to earn in dollars and then have spend in rupees. So I was able to, with fewer hours, have a little bit more comfort around making time for auditions, but then go off, learn a completely new industry, a new language. I didn't even speak Hindi at the time, and then spend time with my family because I did not spend a lot of time in India growing up. I was overseas in Southeast Asia and the US, and I got to meet people that and really get to spend days and weeks and live in their house and uh, build that relationship that just hadn't existed for me. So that was really lucky, but it felt messy at the time because I did not know a single soul who was doing the same thing. And I didn't know how to explain it to my law school friends or my business school friends because I thought that, the fact that I turned down a good job, a really great job, I was so lucky to get in a time when the market was not super stable either. Uh, I think it implied the fact that I was, going to act. It implied that I thought something of myself as an actor or as, somebody with certain qualities. And I had no idea if I was going to land any work at all or if I would have anything to show for this experience. And I didn't necessarily know how to present the mess and the struggle that was happening in that chapter. And the Bollywood chapter was about 9 months, but this testing and experimenting chapter, that was 7 years. And for 7 years, I was trying different careers, and I was the one who didn't have a tight elevator pitch, and I didn't know how to explain what I do for a living. And everybody else would say, "Oh, I work in private equity," or "I work in banking," and everybody would be like, "Ooh." And I didn't know how to get an answer that would, make people feel like I belonged at the table too, or make me feel like I belonged at the table. So, uh, now in 2026, that was very fortunate because we are moving to a world where people are going out on their own so much more. It's becoming very common. Some of it is from desire, some of it is from necessity. And having gone through that experience at the time that I did, now I can very tidily say, oh, I'm a fractional general counsel, and I know what my one liner is, and I know how to build a business in different economies and different industries. Uh, but at the time, oh my god, that chapter 2 was was a tough chapter.
There's I'm hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but Tom Critchow writes some stuff about freelancing, and he has a great piece about like when you're in that exploration period, you need air cover. You need narrative air cover, or else it's like I'm figuring stuff out. Doesn't really play well at cocktail parties. Um, I think that's what makes it hard sometimes exploration because we're scared. Like we want an identity. We need we need our actions to mean something. Like if I'm taking auditions, does it mean I'm an actor, or does it mean I'm just a human exploring things? And it's hard. It can definitely. I think sometimes our harshest critics are the own kind of standards we place for ourselves, especially when you kind of go through a lot of like academic achievement environments. You're very used to like hitting goals and outputs, and when the goals are sense shifting beneath your feet, it's definitely kind of a new world to kind of to move into. Um, so into chapter 3, what has like helped you kind of integrate? So you're both able to kind of to take kind of I would say like calculated risk or kind of some of your creative passions, but still kind of have that more kind of I mean, I wouldn't even say it's an integration of chapter 1 and chapter 2. I would say maybe it's something alchemized into something kind of completely new where they can kind of you both kind of are able to consult and provide your services, but also still have room and I mean, in an ideal world, and this might just be idealistic, they're not necessarily kind of two competing factions. They're kind of integrated into a nice swirl of sorts. But I'll end there with the metaphorical imagery and pass it over to you.
Oh, that was very beautiful, though. I liked the swirl. And I don't know, it actually reminds me of a interview I did, gosh, I don't know, college or high school or something, when they asked me what was the ice cream flavor that represented my personality. And I actually did say a swirl. It was like a vanilla and strawberry swirl, and they never did integrate because there was always kind of the more structured side, which I'm going to call vanilla, and then there was the colorful, unexpected, swirly strawberry side. So yeah, I think, for chapter 3, I think that the integration may or may not happen. I think I do just have these 2 sides of myself. One is very structured, and that's the side of me that went on the linear career path, and then there's the side of me that, wants to live on a commune and raise goats or something. I don't know. There's a hippie side that follows its intuition, and, uh, I think, the structured side in the beginning of chapter 1 was really very market driven. It was, here's what people are willing to pay for, here's the opportunities that exist, and within this set, here's where I can contribute. Within banking, I'll be best at compliance because I'm interested in law, that kind of thing. Chapter 2, no, very little connection to the market. That chapter was all about following my intuition. Opportunities did come my way, and I put myself out for things. Uh, and of course, yes, the things that paid me were the market, but it wasn't looking at like a calculated bet of where is, the most optimized, return on my time. And so it was just trying things. And chapter 3 is more market driven again, but with the intuitive part of it. So market is telling me that of the skills that I have, I think law is both the one people find most valuable and the one that I just kind of click with. I really just do enjoy being a lawyer. And so that is kind of a core of my business, and it lets me set a foundation. But then the intuitive and the more free flowing side of myself says, okay, I love being a lawyer, but I like to be a lawyer my way. And I like to run my own business. I like to choose the clients I work for. I like to decide what hours I work on, what projects are in scope and out of scope. And so that led me to, being a fractional or having my own firm, however you decide to, um, however it's clearer to understand that. And that is the core, and that's the foundation. And then with that foundation, I get to take risk, and I get to be able to do other things on the side, like write books, like write articles, speak, podcast, and find other ways of expressing myself that do actually have their roots in acting. I think there is a lot of that public speaking and performance and wanting to put myself out there, but wanting to be able to say things that I think instead of necessarily reading a script that someone else gave to me. So it is integration, and we'll see how long chapter 3 lasts. There may be some new integration, there may be some new exploration. Maybe, who knows, I go on the ladder. That seems unlikely, but maybe I will. I never say never, and I'm hoping I'm not in just a three-act play, but we'll see.
I think for me, like what is inspiring and what is resonant is the way like there isn't a it's a loaded word, but there isn't like a dogmatic approach to kind of into what you write about and how you approach freelancing. It's not like like we spoke earlier about presence. I have to be present in a certain way. There's understanding there's different types of presence for different stages of life, or how you like you don't have you can kind of approach your life and like parts of your life will influence each other, but they don't have to be work life integration. No, they can be kind of separate. They could be work life influence. I guess we can coin a new term now. We'll copyright it afterwards. Um, like they can kind of impact each other, but it really is about kind of following each of those streams of life where they take you. Um, to pivot a little bit, if you would like to kind of elevator pitch kind of what your services are, both kind of in the more kind of like public speaking engagement side, as well as kind of in your law services, we'll love to kind of give you that platform to share more about your work.
Sure, thank you. So on the law side, I am fractional general counsel for seed to Series B startups. I do also some fractional work for public companies, like including Coinbase and Etsy, and that's as a temp, usually filling in for somebody on leave or during a hiring freeze. On the speaking side, I do talk about becoming a fractional. I talk about charting your own career path and when is the time to take a risk. How do you do it in a calculated manner and still have fun in the process?
Awesome. That's and it's I think it's yeah, I think it's indicative of what you built for yourself that you've able to kind of have that amount of impact on both sides, which is incredible. Um, this may be a little bit kind of asking you to kind of to tell the future, as it were, but from what you've seen and kind of from the research you've done for your book and the conversations you've had, how do you see kind of freelancing kind of progressing? Do you see it kind of becoming this like catch-all term, kind of like we have like the creator term is kind of rising a lot? Will it become oversaturated? Will there be more paths towards freelancing? There's a dark side of kind of like employment instability that kind of comes with freelancing and gig works as terms? I know I'm like throwing a bunch of questions into like one question over here, but definitely kind of curious to see like from your experience and what you've seen, where do you think kind of things are trending in people kind of being self-employed and building a business for themselves in that way?
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing right now is what I'm seeing right now is that freelancing is becoming very normalized in a way that it wasn't before. I think it has existed for decades. And when I did research for the book, I talked to people in their 70s and onward who had been freelancers for many decades. Some of them had been freelancers for 50 plus years. But I think those were freelancers in specific industries like writing, like dance, that tended to be more freelance forward than the rest of the institutional industries we looked at. Now it's becoming normalized in tech and finance and other industries that we thought of as more institutionalized, more centralized. And it's happening for a couple of reasons. One is that for the individual worker, we're all feeling more instability than I think we were feeling 10 years or 20 years prior. And so freelancing is a way to take back some of that control a little bit, to be able to diversify your income, to be able to work on things that you like, to be able to decide how much you work and when you decide to go, you know, deprioritize work a little bit to focus on personal hobbies or family or health, other things. And it's working for institutions in a way as well, because freelance talent really helps with the cost management and scalability because we don't know where AI is going to go. We don't know where geopolitics are going to go. And so freelancing helps both people, both sides of the equation stay nimble. And I see that continuing to get normalized and to grow. And I think that's really important because a lot of the infrastructure and the dark side that you mentioned, that still exists. That's so real. The variability in income, there can be some very long stretches, and I've had very long stretches as well, where I was not earning at the level that I needed to be, sometimes not even at all. And what do you do? Because in this country, getting health insurance is incredibly hard if you're not full time employed or if you're not married to somebody who is full time employed. And that infrastructure needs to get built out a little bit more for people to really consider freelance as a very even alternative to a full time job. And depending on where you live, the opportunities available to you are very different, and the risk profile of freelance versus full time is different. So, despite that, I think the tide pushing freelance is very strong, both for individuals and for companies. And I see this really continuing to grow, at least for the next 5, 10 years.
And I think like that's how change happens. It kind of happens kind of slowly over time, and then as kind of more adoption grows, infrastructure kind of starts, or hopefully we would hope starts to spring up around to support it. Um, you've had a journey, kind of multiple chapters, and that journey kind of is continuing to happen. Um, what would you say to you? What would you say is kind of like the most like meaningful thing you've kind of like it hasn't been a pain free journey. I would venture to guess. But what do you kind of like, if you're comfortable sharing, like what is kind of like something like meaningful that you've derived from this journey and kind of going through this process of having kind of like a building a down, I'll use another metaphor, using building this strong downtown New York building with kind of 100 floors, detonating it, and then kind of building something in the sandbox underneath, and then kind of building something on top of that again. Um, what was that experience all like?
I think that the experience, and wow, that was a metaphor. I love that one. I'm gonna file that one away. Um, the experience really taught me that first, everything takes both so much longer and so much less time than you would expect. Like building whether it was a structured career, whether it was writing the book, building a freelance business, all of that did happen slowly, step by step, over literal decades of time. And then at the same time, a single moment, a single party, a single phone call that you take can shift and accelerate or change your path very dramatically. Like, had I not, you know, and this is like we're getting into the effect, so we'll put another metaphor out on the table. But when you're doing the work as, like, for example, a writer, and I had a dream of being a writer, and I had a very wrong idea that was not, market grounded, and also not my skill set, that I was really pursuing as a book that I thought was where I was going to start. And I was trying to write a magical realism novel with, not much of a plot, and not much of a craft either, and not much of a market for it. So that was that was the testing, and that was the idea of becoming a writer. And then I got to meet an agent at a conference, and we were just chatting, and she saw that I wanted to write. She saw that there was maybe not quite of a market for the book that I had written, and she said, "Oh, you need to write about freelancing because that will let you write and that will be what the market will receive and pay for." And so that moment, that conversation then shifted my entire career to focusing on talking about freelancing. And that was not top of mind for me at all. So I think little moments can shift your perspective. And as long as you are continuing to do the footwork and test and try and put yourself out there and also stay open to feedback, you can find opportunities in really unexpected places. And the world is both bigger and smaller than we think it is in any given moment.
I think that's a theme I've been picking up on recently, that when you embark on this freelance journey, when you allow more space for complexity and nuance and the ability to hold dual, sometimes opposing concepts at once. Like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, but also one conversation can dramatically alter your trajectory. I think being comfortable with that, I think, is also the benefit of freelancing, even if it doesn't bring you to economic parity right away. But it's the ability to go on a bit of a choose your own adventure and to hold opposing ideals and to work with some of these things. And even when kind of things aren't moving, you know that you're being more self-directed, and it's powerful and it's complex. It's not simple, but we're lucky you've written it really kind of just like chapter after chapter, kind of just seeing the practical pieces of advice that were sprinkled within there. Like they're not just helpful; it also kind of shows that you care a lot about your kind of audience, and it's an incredible book, and definitely recommend folks to read it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
It was amazing having you on the podcast today. Really, really thank you for joining, and we'll share links in the show notes to learn all more about kind of your podcast and your book, and looking forward to introducing people to your great work.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this great work you're doing to teach people about how to freelance and how to create careers on their own terms. It's really so useful.
Thank you so much.
Past, present, future. I'm done being patient. Every side of me meets in this basement. I was running in a circle. Now I'm drawing a frontier. Past, present, future. I choose my career.